can handle a lot of things. I can deal with a lot of things when dealing with other people. I can deal with a lot of things in general, to be frank with you. But when dealing with other people, I can actually handle an awful lot. One thing, though, that I'm just not a great fan of is preachiness. I don't like people preaching at me, and I don't think it's a beneficial or useful thing for them to do that in general when you think about it and look at it. That's what I wanted to talk a little bit about on today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Glad to have you aboard today, whether you're coming on Rumble, on YouTube, or on the podcast. Today is Saturday, the 20th of March of 2021. And again, the subject today is going to be preachiness. And I bring this up because I have a feeling that there are people out there who might look at a person like me and think that we are preaching at them or trying to preach at them. And I've got to tell you something. Nothing could be further from the truth for me. And I don't support the idea of people being preachy. I don't like it. I don't like, quote, preachers as such who, when they get out and they talk in condescending or rude or arrogant ways towards the people that they're talking to, whatever they happen to be, right? When I say preachers, I mean, obviously there are those guys who stand in pulpits or at dioceses or whatever in churches and do this, right? I don't have any time for people when they act like that. In my opinion, every person who talks to other people should be talking to them from the perspective of someone to whom they are trying to relate and sort of get a message across to. And you may have a problem with the idea that everything should be about messaging, but the reality is, for the most part, that's the most meaningful piece of conversation. Hi, nice day, isn't it? Yeah, it's a nice day. Yeah, that's a lovely conversation, but all it does is assert something that really isn't particularly meaningful and have somebody sort of echo a response typically, because most of the time people aren't going to be willing to argue whether or not it's a nice day. Sometimes they will. And for that reason alone, that can be an okay little conversation. Hi, nice day, isn't it? No, it's a horrible day. I just crashed my car, somebody hit me in the back, and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. That suddenly becomes a meaningful conversation. But when, okay, let's add to the conversation. Hi, nice day. Yeah, no, it really isn't. I just got hit in the back by somebody else. Well, if you hadn't been on such and such roadway, that wouldn't have happened to you. Is that really something anybody wants to hear? Is that really something anybody wants to hear? You know, gee, I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. I hope things are going well and so forth. You know, I understand you're probably going to have to either get a new car or get your car fixed or whatever. I'm sorry that that's the case. This is the sort of thing people want to hear. And that's not because, they're not willing to accept correction or whatever. It's because they don't want to have somebody preaching at them. And so my attitude is that when I speak to people, I aim as well to be somebody who doesn't preach to people. I tend to try and listen. I tend to try and deal with where they are and who they are and work with them accordingly. Now, let's be clear on something. You have to have some way to impart knowledge to people that maybe they don't want to hear. You have to have that. Okay? And what I've tried to do is sort of relate things to my personal experience. And maybe this is annoying to some folks as well, right? But I try to relate things to my personal experience. And when I talk to people, I try to go, yeah, I get you, sort of thing. I understand your situation. Or sometimes I honestly will say to somebody, I don't get that. I don't get why you think that or why you're there or whatever. It's okay to disagree, too. That's not somebody trying to be preachy, right? That's just somebody who doesn't agree with somebody. That's okay. You can do that. That's okay. But the important thing is, even when you disagree, respect should be there. You should always respect other people, and I try to do that. Sometimes I find myself in positions where there's just no good way to deal with somebody respectfully. But I have to tell you, the older I've gotten, the more I've dealt with things, the less that's been the case. In my opinion, your intention when you deal with people. And I don't necessarily care their age either. Lots of people are a lot younger than me these days, even children. In my opinion, most of the time, you should at least be amiable and probably be respectful of those people. So if you hear somebody accuse me of being preachy, maybe you ought to listen to what I have to say and see if what's really happening is me being preachy, because I'm here to tell you that's probably not what's going on. There are people out there who I think will take offense because, frankly, one of the things that I think causes people to take offense is when other people are right. Okay, they take offense at that. You're right. Oh, that's But there are other things too. I don't like your face. I don't like your attitude. Whatever. There are things that will make people think, oh, he or she is preachy, right? And so I think probably, like I say, people actually accuse me of being that. And I'm just here to tell you, if you find me to be that, I would like to know that you find me to be that, because it means I have to make some adjustments in how I deal with people. But I'm going to promise you something, right? Whether or not I have to make those adjustments is not really a sign of whether or not I'm trying to be a preachy individual. In fact, I can just tell you that if it looks to you like I'm trying to be a preachy individual, that's a problem for me, because I'm really not. In fact, I'm trying very hard to not be that preachy individual, that person who blah, 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 or, oh, you're wrong because of this or that. When I speak on what I speak on, most of the time I try to cover topics I feel like I know pretty well. And the result is, I'm sure that I come off, I won't say destroying people who disagree with me, because that's not my intent, but besting them in discussion. I'll put it in those terms. That's not because I'm trying to be preachy. It's because I want my positions to be known and I want to be right. Okay? And I have to tell you something. If when I say I want to be right, what I mean by that is I want to make sure I explore something to the best best level I can. I want to listen to all of the arguments, come up with, what makes sense and what doesn't, and form opinions on that basis. There's nothing wrong with that. If you think that a person who seems to be right a lot of the time is a problem and is trying to preach at you, maybe you ought to look at what's going on. Because in my case, the reason I come off seeming right so much of the time, quite frankly, is that I'm very careful to talk about things I know about. I'm very careful to talk about things that are important to me, and I'm very careful to take a deep dive into a lot of what I talk about, so that when I talk about things, what you're going to hear and know from what I am saying will be, maybe even revelatory to you. I don't. It's not about trying to preach at you. It's about knowing what I'm talking about and acting accordingly. Okay, and maybe people are soured by that, and if you are, I'm sorry. Right? If you are, I'm sorry. But I'm going to take the opinion of a guy I'm not a great fan of these days, Ben Shapiro, and I'm just going to tell you that facts don't care about your feelings, people. They just don't. So if like I say, if you think that's preachiness, that I'm actually stating fact on a given thing or set of things, well, maybe you ought to examine your own position, your own world, and decide where you are before you come to that conclusion. Right? Okay, I'm running out of time, and I'm kind of getting to the point anyway where I'm ready to wrap up, because I think I've said what I wanted to say. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying, and it's really pretty simple. I don't like preachy people. I hope you don't think I'm preachy. I'd like to know if you think that I'm preachy. You can certainly leave comments on my videos to tell me that. Hope everything is going well for you today. It's a little bit cool today, but it's not a horribly bad day. It is Saturday, as I've said, so it's that weekend day that a lot of people enjoy the most. Again, that means tomorrow will be Sunday, the 21st of March of 2021. Not again, because I didn't really say it before. Again, I have said that I think that the subject of today is preachiness. Tomorrow's subject is going to be where the buck stops, and we're going to talk about how authority and responsibility work, and how people tend to drop the buck at the highest level. And it's understandable, but there are some things that we need to talk about there, in my opinion. Okay, again, hope you're having a good day, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, the 20th of March of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.